Welcome. Thank you for spending your Sunday. I'm sure we'll have people pop on. I think we had like 30 people register for this. So hopefully we'll have people show up. But for me, I'm all about punctuality. I like to be on time. I like to get started on time because I'm respectful of your guys' time. But I got a really amazing thing. So those of you that are also watching the replay, because I know some of you said that you wouldn't be able to make it, but you did register, this is for you as well. So if you guys have any questions, you can always email achievers at tanyacoliver.com. And my team and myself will always get back to you with any questions. So anyway, welcome Natalie and Chris. I see you guys are live. I'm sure we'll have some people pop on a little bit later, but you guys matter. And thank you for sharing your Sunday with me. My name is Tanya Oliver, and I will be sharing a really amazing, let me share my screen with you real fast. Boom, 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 boom. All right, can you see my screen? It's going to be an extension of the slides of when I was presenting. I've presented like back to back at 3 events, and so I promised you guys I was going to do a breakdown of one of the major tools, one of the biggest secrets that will elevate your business, your mindset, and your life. It is for real a game changer. It's changed my life, my business. It's also changed a lot of my clients' lives and businesses. And so I'm really excited to be able to share this stuff because you're gonna expand tremendously. Also, if you are interested, just go ahead and pull your phone out if you're not watching this from your phone, or you can screenshot it. And we have a really special opportunity for you with this QR code. So let me get into here. I'll give you guys 1 second. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now, in here, what I do is, for those of you that are new that might be watching the replay, or if you guys pop on later, my name is Tanya Oliver, and I teach high achievers how to become mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically healthy and strong AF so that they can look, feel, and live life as their most elite self. I'm somebody that always strives for, if I can be a little bit better, I'm going to strive to be better. If I can do better, I'm going to develop the skills that I need in order to do better, to be better, because why not? It's just part of human performance to want to be better and to grow and to expand. And so the number one secret that I really wanted to take you through today is when it comes to emotional regulation, working with people of all different industries, this line of work on human performance can really be expanded into all careers. And I remember when I was, how this came about, of how I actually learned this specifically, is when I was in the midst of my addiction. First off, let me go backwards a little bit. I believe that all of us have a story. We all have a story as to what inspired us, what gave us a passion to merge ourselves into our careers, and or why or how we operate the way we operate. And one of my past life stories in this lifeline, but I don't attach myself to that like identity because it's not my storyline anymore, was addiction. And I came from a family lineage of addicts. And, I've had entrepreneurship is in my bloodline. My great grandfathers were entrepreneurs. They did very well and they had built phenomenal businesses, but because of trauma that happened or something that happened to them, they had tools in their toolbox that actually made them a liability to themselves, to their businesses, and then to my family, and they lost everything. And so this is why this is like something really important to me. And then as I was growing up, my father had built a very successful construction business, and he ran away from home at 16 from a domestic violent family and started everything on his own from scratch. And he made it happen. He made it work, wanted to build a better future for himself, and he wanted to leave a toxic environment and also build a better life for us, for his children. And throughout the process of constantly putting work first, he ended up having to get back surgery. Construction's a very like physically demanding industry. And the surgery went sour, and the screw was driven into his spinal column so far that he was in chronic pain. And when you're in that type of surgery of where you're literally like butchered, and it's really sad. That's right back then when a lot of the doctors actually did go to jail because they were over prescribing medications and just drugging up the clients. A lot of the clients ended up going to addiction centers. And I worked in an addiction center with Jason Williams. He owns one here in South Florida. He's an ex NBA player, and he has his own powerful story. And what he's done with that story is just so beautiful, where he's created outpatient centers for other pro athletes that are struggling with addictions, and also, people that are musicians or artists, and they've done very well, but under so much stress and pressure and the demands of the industry, they turned to substance abuse, which is a tool, which we're going to get into. It doesn't matter if you have an addiction or not. Everybody has some form of attachment, which you're going to get into in a little bit today. But once I understood this, I remember I was like in the mist and I was like praying, and whatever you believe in, I think when you get to such a low point, you'll do whatever you got to do, whether you believe in God or not. Like you pray and you do anything to be free, because what we've done is, no matter what heightened level of success you achieve, you can still build a beautiful prison for yourself, and you can still feel a prisoner to your circumstances or your situations. And I know, because I work with a lot of people that have built 7, 8, 9 plus figure businesses, and they still feel the same way about themselves, and they feel like they've built this beautiful prison for themselves. And so I feel like this is such a powerful new way, and a simple way, and a light way. I promise I make this stuff very light. I don't like making things dark. And so it's going to be just like a game changer for you. So I just wanted to kind of share the back end story on this. And what I realized when I was like, okay, I just want to feel liberation. I want to be free. I want to feel happy. I want to feel, which are all intrinsic goal setting, we're not getting into today. So what I finally realized is that pain is real and suffering is optional. And when we're in pain, we need tools to help us find relief. And so a lot of the things that we do, whether it being whatever you reach for to help you, is just a tool. And once I finally understood this, I'm going to take you through this like very simple equation. When I was like, literally, I feel like it was like information given to me to help me be able to then serve other people, because it didn't come from me, but it like came through me. Makes sense. I don't know if you've ever had that experience before, where it's just like, wow, insight, channeling information. So today, I really feel like this number one secret is having the right tools in your toolbox to help you when you're going through intense things. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is just kind of helping you create a new toolbox for yourself. So identifying your triggered emotions and developing a solid toolbox on how to handle them. And in order to operate at higher levels, you have to develop power tools that will get you to higher levels. These are topics that I really love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. I really I'm blessed to do what I do and to really serve people. But these are a lot of the things that high-end achievers don't talk about. They don't talk about until maybe they've come on the other side, but nobody likes sharing this stuff. And for me, I love talking about like the obstacles and the challenges, so that, number one, we're all human. We all have them, and nobody's, superhuman. You can operate as superhuman when you have the right tools in place. And so there's going to get into this right now. So there's two core reasons why people stay stuck AF. And this is, there's resistance and there's attachment. And resistance is really just not knowing why something why something should be a priority. So maybe your self-care, like why I'm building this, $10 million business, or I'm building this, or I have this, or I have that. Like I don't have time. We're in a season right now, especially with all of the fear going around, and whether you shut off the news or you listen to the news, or you're listening to people, or you're going to events and you're hearing all the people talking about recession and this and this and this, like, and you're seeing the shifts in the market or whatever industry you're in, people are all feeling some form of fear around it. And so you just always want to have tools ready. It's one thing when things are good, but when things aren't good, how are you handling things? So resistance is really just coming down to this one core part. Like, I know what to do, but I just don't do it. We don't do things because we don't understand why it's important. So the moment that you feel resistance, the best thing you can do is actually just do like a deep dive into it. Think about like, okay, well, why am I feeling this resistance? Well, whenever I'm feeling resistance, like for example, I'm writing a book right now. And when I was, before I signed the contract, and it was like a $50,000 investment, before I signed that contract, I had a lot of resistance. Like I was dragging my feet. I was like trying to delay the meetings. I was preventing myself from, like just kind of like delaying the decision making process because I didn't know if I was making the right decision. A lot of times, if we've had past experiences where we didn't make the right decisions, we've maybe lost trust in our ability to make the right decisions, and we don't trust ourselves. It's a big thing, especially the more you take on in life, and the higher you climb, and the more responsibilities, or the more that you're reaching for whatever vision you've set for yourself. Hopefully, if you still have a vision. I had a consultation yesterday with somebody, and they were in a space where they kind of like made a point that they always thought like they wanted, and then they kind of like in this stuck space of not knowing where to pivot. We call it like pivoting, of when you reach a certain level, then it's time for your next level upgrade. It's kind of like, if you think of it like school, and I'm going to get back to what I was saying, but if you think of like life as school or life as a sport, like you don't just stop at a grade. And unfortunately, as adults, like once we graduate to whatever level you graduated as, most of the time we don't create our next level upgrade every single year. We just kind of like go through it and set targets, but like, are we constantly putting ourselves in a forward movement mindset? And instead of waiting for bad things to happen to us, where we feel like we're in a corner to make us move. So the point is, like, good things can still come to you, and you can still position yourself in spaces that are going to be for your greatest growth, just like taking care of yourself or prioritizing yourself. Cycling back to this segment is like, we don't have to wait for bad things to happen in order to do good things for ourselves. And then understanding like, there's a person before there's a business. There's a person before there's a family. There's a person before there's a couple. Like there's an individual. And when you have an individual that's whole and solid and strong and has a strong spine, no matter what happens, it's like, that's why I love this tree as my background. It's like, no matter what hits, the roots are planted. And when your roots are solid, you might lose a few leaves, but the tree's not going anywhere. And so we want to build ourselves into like rooted, solid, that like we're ready for anything, but at the same time, we're still expanding and we're still moving forward at the same time. So the resistance part is, I know what to do, I just don't do it. And for me, I would block a lot of my blessings for a long time because I just had so much resistance. I was always rebelling around like everything. And I noticed too, a lot of overachievers and high-end achievers have a very rebellious personality trait. And the best thing you can do is just come back to the space of like, there's always going to be a consequence. There's always going to be a consequence in every single thing that we're doing in life. And the consequence is either going to be desired or it's going to be undesired. but there's going to be a cause and effect. So when I do this, then this is going to be my outcome. I can do whatever I want. This is the power of free will, right? Is I can do whatever I want, but will I be okay with the consequence? And sometimes the consequence is like going all in and being okay if maybe you fail or you trip or something like that. I think I watched an episode the other day on Elon Musk, and the guy was interviewing him, and they're like, hey, did you know Tesla was going to be the way that it is? He goes, honestly, like, I thought Tesla was going to fail. I thought it was going to flop. He goes, wait, you went into building like this car thinking that it was going to fail? He goes, yeah, but I just wanted to prove to people like there could be a possibility of XYZ. He goes, he's like, I really went in believing that Tesla is going to fail. It's like, why would you say this? He goes, because anytime you have an idea or a vision, I believe you should try. You should always try. If the idea is there, you should always try. And I was like, wow, it's almost like letting go of the expectation, but allowing yourself to fully go all in. And a lot of times when we do things, we kind of half-ass it and we put one foot in and one foot out. Or we do things and we don't trust ourselves, or we don't believe in ourselves. And it's like, then you start, I don't know, you go in this whole space, like setting up backup goals, but that's more like subconscious stuff. And so that's the whole part of resistance, is like really getting clear on like, number one, leaning in to the negative emotion. And number two is like really understanding like why you're resisting certain things. Why are you resisting taking care of yourself? One thing that I've realized, like doing a deep dive, and there's a common pattern, especially with the personality traits of the people that I work with, because everybody's a mirror. So it's not a coincidence that you're here on this webinar with me. There's some type of a mirror interest, where it comes down to a lot of people that have really reached a strong financial success. So if you think about success, you define success. I define success. Like we all define our own success. If we're looking at this life wheel, so this is something that I teach in my courses, my Mastermind Elite course, and there's 10 categories. So if you take life and you have your overly full life box, and you can compartmentalize it, because I like to take things and I like to make it very practical. Money is only 1/10 of the fulfillment of our life. Money and career are not in the same category. You can love your career and not love your bank account and what's in your money. You can love your money and create resistance around your career. So, and then you have all these other areas in life to consider when it comes to actual like fulfillment. So anyway, moving on, but hopefully that like made sense. Like, like understand like why am I creating resistance, and just getting clear on like why something needs to be a priority. So the second is attachment. The second is attachment. And this is what I promised you guys, like when I was speaking at the event, that I would break this down for you, because you only have a certain amount of time. So when it comes to attachment, this gets a little tricky, but I like to make things as simple as possible, because I feel like things need to be simple and things are overcomplicated. So when we break this down right here, if we're talking about attachment, and we're talking about the short game versus the long game, kind of like what I just said earlier about consequence. Everything in life has a consequence. Every decision we make has a consequence. Sometimes we're not going to know the effect or the impact. Like I told you the story about Elon Musk, and he had said that about like, honestly, I thought it was going to fail. The guy's like, why would you try something you think is going to fail? He goes, yeah, like I really believed it was going to fail. It's like, because why would I not try? If I had the idea and there's something I wanted to prove, why would I not try? He goes, that's a problem with a lot of people. He's like, and look at what happened to it. So when we're focusing on this short game, I want you to pretend, and you can write this out on a piece of paper. We're going to send you a link in the email, because I have like a whole like 6-page PDF that I created that we're having some issues with the email, but we're going to send that in the email like as a thank you. in here, this is going to be triggered emotions. So if you want to write, like, kind of draw like a little math equation, take it back to elementary school, blank plus blank equals blank, equals feel good equals feel bad. Right in here, you're going to write triggered emotions. All right. So when we're getting back to like this toolbox over here, we want to identify triggered emotions and develop a solid toolbox and how to handle them. A lot of times people have, we all have the same, we don't all have the same triggered emotions, but your triggered emotions are practically going to be the what is. They're not going to go away. We all have the same 22 emotions. And they're not really going to change. Triggered emotions are going to be triggered emotions. But when it comes to how we handle them, that's the power of taking personal responsibility and doing the work, is you actually can change how you respond to your triggered emotions. And something also that I work on, that I teach people, is there's 5 core obstacles that block our blessings and that keep us stuck AF. Cravings and desires is one of them. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it comes back into this point of behavior. So if we have triggered emotions right here, and we have our behavior right here, how we respond to our triggers. So say your trigger, what I've found is like, it's typically 2 combined where we feel like we've lost control. And then we do some type of self-destructive thing. So we become like more of a liability to ourselves, to our goals, to our dreams, to our visions, and or other people, versus like knowing how to handle them, knowing how to process our emotions. And you want to think of like your processing emotions is almost like an Oreo cookie. Everybody loves Oreos. Let's just be real here. I don't eat them anymore because they like crystallize our brain. They slow us down. So nobody has time to be slow anymore, but totally love them. One of my favorite like foods to go to when I was like 60 pounds overweight and food addiction. And even when I was a kid, I loved them. But anyway, getting back to the Oreo. So our triggered emotions and our reactions are almost like an Oreo cookie. And how we process negative thoughts and emotions is, if you want to think of it like Oreo cookie, and when you learn how to process negative thoughts and emotions, it's almost like taking the Oreo cookie and creating that opening and that separation. Remember, like as a kid, we saw that, like, well, depending on your age group, we see the commercials where they take the Oreo and there's 2 little kids with like the milk near them, and they're like, oh, which one has like the cream filling on it? And you look and you're like, oh, this one. What you do is we're separating the reaction. We're giving ourselves a healthy timeout, and we're separating the reaction from the emotion. And that in between space is so powerful. And one thing people don't realize, because biologically, when we are in anger, we have a dopamine release in the body. Our body releases all these different chemical and drugs that we like seek outside of ourselves for, but like our body actually releases them. And so we think like we're on this high, we're in this space of negative thoughts and emotions, but really we are powerless. We are powerless in negative thoughts and emotions. And so the moment you can actually spend time, and that's the power behind self-awareness. Self-awareness is so powerful because it's that in-between space that allows us to not be reactive and to feel like we have more control. And so when you can identify and get clear on what are my triggered thoughts and emotions, typically it comes down to like two core ones. And these are things like we can do like deep dives on and stuff like that. But I want you to like just take a moment and maybe think about like, number one, what do I do as far as my behavior when I'm triggered? Maybe you had a coaching call with somebody the other day. They're like, yeah, I keep blowing up on these like people when they're calling me, and I like this and that, and I yell, and like it could be something like that. Others, you can go and you can grab a drink at the end of the day. Like sometimes it's expanding it out onto others, and others it's like being self-destructive for yourself. Everybody has their different vices, but it's just getting clear and having that awareness, because the moment you become aware, Number one, I would say like there's 3 steps to really transforming any situation. And you can write this down. Number one is you have to have self-honesty. You have to be honest with yourself, because if you can't be honest with yourself, there's no way you're ever going to be honest or be able to change or be able to transition any situation or even yourself or grow and expand. With self-awareness comes self-honesty, because if you're not honest, you can't be aware of anything, especially if you're playing for the short game, and a lot of these are trained behaviors. It's also called like shadow traits. We all have different versions of ourselves of how we operate from, and it could be on a day-to-day basis, but every day we get to discern what version of ourselves am I going to operate in today. Am I going to operate from my most elite self, or I'm going to operate from low frequency self every single day? And you see in my stories on Instagram, I always say like the work behind the work. There are certain things that I need to do in order to get my energy like sharp, in order to get me sharp. And if I miss those things, like I'm not going to be as energetic, mentally, emotionally strong, and physically have the endurance to keep up with my goals and my visions if I didn't have those other segments in place. So if you get really clear on what are my triggered emotions, what are the behaviors, how do I respond to these negative thoughts, to these negative emotions? And typically we do it so that we can feel good in the moment. And then in the long run is we just feel bad. So, and then that whole like self-sabotage cycle happens. And that's where we're playing for the short game. Now, if you are playing for the long game, it's typically going to be the same thing where you have your triggered emotions. These two are always going to be, for the most part, the same. Triggered emotions are triggered emotions. It can be overly exhaustion. It could be like neglecting of yourself. It could be anger. It could be, what are some common ones people have? Like, I know for me, it's like when I'm overly exhausted and maybe like angry. Like I definitely have, people can't tell, but I definitely have worked a lot on like my temper and my anger management at this time in like my life. People are like, there's no way you're so calm. Like you're so like melatonin. I'm like, there was a lot of work. There's a lot of growth work. There's a lot of behind the scenes that people didn't see that I had to do, like when things look beautiful, it's typically because there was a lot of ugly that happened. A lot, like, growth is not pretty. Like growth is not nice, So we want to just kind of identify like what are those triggered emotions here, and then what for here. So if you think of this as your toolbox and you're replacing self-destructive things, back in the day, I used to use alcohol, I would use food, I would even engage in toxic relationships sometimes, because working with people, when we did the last mastermind, was even loneliness. We're in an era too where like when you're going through the journey, you can sometimes feel like you maybe have people around, but you still feel lonely. You might feel like alone. You might feel like people don't understand what you're doing or what your vision is or what your goal is. And you can get into toxic relationships, or relationships are not going to serve you because you're focusing on the short game, and so if you can replace these and you can have other tools in this toolbox that are going to help you and serve you when you're going through triggered emotions, this is gonna feel bad. This is painful. It's painful to, instead of popping a pill or smoking some weed or, drinking a drink or going eating junk food or going, when you have like a deadline on something, or you have a passion project, or, you don't want to do it. Like you want to go and spend time with friends, or you want to go and do this. And that it's taking you away from what you're trying to create or what you're trying to build or how you're trying to expand. That's really what suffering is. Pain is optional. You do what you got to do, you move through it. And, um, pain is real and suffering is optional. And this is where you have to always ask yourself, like, going back to consequences, I can do whatever I want. Today, I can make any decision I want to make, but am I going to be okay with the outcome? And one thing that I always say, like in my, when I'm speaking a lot, and even when I'm doing interviews with people, because it tells me a lot about where somebody is if you ask yourself, like, remember oh, hold on, I didn't even finish my 3 steps. 3 steps is your self-honesty, which leads to self-awareness. Step 2 is curiosity versus judgment. So like, let me get curious about this situation. Let me think, like, where did this come from? Talked a lot about like personality traits. A lot of that stems from childhood stuff. We develop certain personality traits and we get mad at ourselves about certain things, but like those were all learned behaviors. So we get curious about, like, well, where did I pick up this, or where did I pick up that bad habit, or where do I do this, or why do I grab for that drink, or why do I grab for food, or how come when I'm feeling a certain way I try to procrastinate or I have avoidance behavior. Those are all programming and learned behaviors, but if they're learned, that means they can be relearned into something else that's going to help, like, you get where you want to be. And then, so you want to get curious about it versus judge it. Because whenever we judge something, we shut it down and there's no solution. When we judge ourselves or we judge others, it really blocks our blessings. So we always want to become curious about it. I went out to a lunch with some really big, well-known people this week. And of course, I can't ever mention any names, but they were trying to talk to this one woman, and she was very standoffish. She's very standoffish, and they're like all the like instantly just like created like judgment, like, oh, well, she's shut down, she's snobby, she's this, she's that. And then the 2 women sat at a table further off, and I'm just there kind of like, listening, observing. I'm like, whatever. If you guys meet me and you know me, I'm very like neutral. And so then they're talking, we still in the business meeting. And then later on, like, yeah, I don't understand. I could give her like millions of dollars of business and this and that. And she's like judging me on this. And I'm like, she's like married, like maybe it's her birthday or maybe something happened. You don't know what happened to somebody in that moment, in that day. And like the moment I said that, their whole energy shifted. And one of them, my mastermind that we ran, and we had a student in there, and he was saying like he used to have like road rage, and he would like curse people, he'd flip them off, is always like, very like destructive behaviors that weren't serving him, because remember, we're powerless when we're in a negative state of thought and energy. And when he found out one time, some guy cut him off and he like sped up and he's like, cursing him out. And the guy's like, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm rushing my family member to the hospital. And then automatically the energy shifted. So it's like that comes in the space of like, become curious about stuff. Not everything is like about you. Not everything is personal. You don't know what people are going through, but nor is it our business. However, it's your personal responsibility to like know how to master yourself. Because a lot of this work is, number 1, emotional intelligence, and number 2, self-mastery. If you can't master yourself, like, how do you expect to master anything else in life? This is where we get back to self-honesty. We have to be honest with ourselves. Like, what do you want? What are you striving for? Do you want to be living life on purpose and at least trying your best to see what you can accomplish in this lifetime? Or are you just kind of like dragging your feet in life? And if you're here today, I really don't think that's the case for you. And because if you're drawn to me, then like we're definitely in the same wavelength. I just know a thing or two that I want to share with you today. Appreciate you sharing your time with me. And so for the long game, right over here, triggered emotions, know yourself, even in scripture, know thyself. And over here, what tools can I have to replace this? For me, how I was able to process and handle a lot of my anger was through yoga and breath work and meditation. And how I learned about this stuff too is about the difference between pain and suffering and emotions and triggers is liberation breath work and yoga. And yoga just means a union with your higher self. Understanding by taking care of the body, it helps me have better control of the mind. They say like the mind can sometimes be like wild horses. And if you're taking care of yourself, it's like you are pulling the reins back. Like our food impacts our cognition and our pineal gland, which has a lot to do with tapping into higher consciousness. And a lot of times we're consuming things that are poisoning our brain, and we're wondering why every morning we're waking up with high anxiety, depression, sometimes even suicidal thoughts. We don't know the extent of where the mind can go, especially depending on what happens in your life and what your circumstance or your circumstances are. And so
Hey,
by
it's Tanya. I'm calling a quick timeout intermission huddle, so bring it in. I'm personally inviting you to our inner circle. It's our monthly VIP meetup with other achievers just like us. Each week, I'm teaching everything you're going to need in order to be successful to step into the most elite version of yourself. I'm going to break this down play by play, the tools, the systems, the strategies, everything you're going to need in order to operate at higher levels mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically. Look, we're in a season where the idea of full potential just isn't cutting it anymore. It's time to really be it now. So click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the inner circle. Peace.
are. And so by having this simple equation and having and really spending time and like breaking it down, you're going to have like a lot of clarity on how you're going to handle things when life isn't working out for you, when life isn't going your way, and how you're going to handle it, how you're going to move through pain, because the only way out is through. And a lot of times when we're talking about attachment, we have certain tools in the short game because it's the only thing that gives us relief. So this comes back to I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it because you need it to help you get through pain. But if you have new tools and you spend time developing a solid toolbox that when I'm feeling triggered and this is how it is, it's almost like that Pavlik law where they've conditioned the dog, and our bodies are subconscious, not saying that we're dogs, but we can really condition and program ourselves. I mean, it's human behavior. And there's always going to be a cue, there's always going to be a trigger. So when you understand your triggers, you can change and shape shift how you respond. It's never easy, but it's always worth it. And in the beginning, you might really suck at it. But eventually over time, you're going to become a little bit better. You're going to become a little bit better. And something that I do too with my clients is we have a very specific journaling exercise that we create new neuroplasticity in the brain, because how habits work is we do something and we're not even consciously aware of it until it's already over. And we feel like you're like, whoa, like, why did I do that again? Is anybody in here? Have you ever done that? You're like, I know better. Why did I do that again? Like, why did I reach for that cigarette? Why did I smoke that joint? Why did I grab that drink? Why did I call that person? Why did I spend time with that person? Like those are all things, why did I blow up on that person? Like, I hate when I do that. I hate when I lash out on my children. I hate when I do this and that, like it's not you, it's just the tools you've been conditioned to use, and you haven't taken a moment and you haven't spent time on learning how to master those certain things so that you can transition and shift it. A lot of times too, I want to show you this real quick. So when you are, and please like share your comments. If you guys want to unmute yourself, if you want to share some things, I see Stephanie's in here. She went through my mastermind course. Um, if you want to share some things that are really powerful for you, please go ahead. Like it's like here for you guys. So this is something I want to share. I learned this. One of my biggest journeys too was also really, like I said, I had accomplished a lot of stuff in life, and I still felt like a prisoner to my circumstances. I felt like not a victim because I always took personal responsibility, but I was also angry a lot at why me? And that still is victim consciousness. So victim consciousness is like, why me? Why is this happening to me? The winner consciousness is like, I don't know why the F this happened to me or why it's happening to me or why this is my circumstance because I'm literally a great person and I'm trying my best. But I take personal responsibility for it. I don't know why. I take ownership that I created it. And if I created this, that means I can create something else. This allows you to reclaim your personal power. When you are not taking responsibility, even if you have no idea why, like something is happening to you, you are powerless and there's nothing you can do it. It's almost like the difference in step 2 when you said there's 3 steps to change and transformation, transforming any situation. One is the curiosity, the other is judgment. Judgment shuts down all options and all possibilities, and there's no way you can seek out any solutions. But when you say, I don't know how this is happening to me, but you know what? I take responsibility. And if like I created this means I can create something else. It allows you to feel more hopeful. And when we have hope, we can actually make a next shift in our life and in our businesses and anything that you want to transform. So the 6 steps of the F-it mindset, I know I used to say this a lot until I learned this and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like genius. Like, why did I not know this before?" But now I know it. So 6 steps of the F-it mindset, how it works is when we are not taking care of our body, when we are not prioritizing our physical health. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm always posting either my strength training, my yoga, me rollerblading. Every day I'm moving. If I have more stress in my day or more responsibilities, or I have to perform like even more than normal, or I've added more stuff on my plate, which I tend to do, I'm probably going to be training 2-a-days because exercise's main placement is a foundation to help quiet the chaos of the mind. And it is under prescribed medication. It really, really is, with the endorphins and how you're able to handle your stress and how you're able to breathe and get more oxygen to your system. So when we don't take care of our body, when we're eating toxic foods and when we're numbing, when we're poisoning ourselves with food or like not exercising, we are dulling our mind. And any entrepreneur will tell you one of their most reliable resource is their mind. When your mind is gone, like especially the higher you climb, and if you're an executive or if you're striving to build an empire or a multi-million gazillion dollar company, you need to make decisions quickly. And if you have employees of hundreds of people or 50 people, or they're relying on you. And if you have a family, like then you have to handle all that stuff. You need your mind. And so when you're not taking care of your body, you're slowing down your mind, you're dulling out your mind, then you become to doubt yourself. We talked about 5 obstacles that block our blessings and keep us stuck as fuck. Stuck AF. Whoops. All right, I got a little passionate there. Sorry about you guys. But that keep us stuck AF is really cravings and desires, which is a big part of attachments. Cravings is I need this in order to give me relief. And I need this outside of myself. We don't need anything outside of ourselves to calm us down, or from transitioning anxiety to calmness, or depression to calmness or peace. That's just false stuff. But we doubt ourselves. So doubt is the second one. Self-doubt is another one that really blocks our blessings. We doubt ourselves. We doubt our ability to make the right decisions. And as somebody, as an elite human being, or if you're striving to be elite, you're not going to trust your ability to make the right decisions. And that's so critical when it comes to making decisions with business or contracts or deals or signing something. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, when I had to make the decision, like, okay, I want this woman, she's going to be the one to get the message out. A year of writing this book and it's $50,000 investment when I can go and hire somebody for $10,000. I have a lot of great clients that have written books and they're like, use my guy, use that guy. But there was just something off. And this is where trusting our intuition comes in place. And I was like, you know what? This is really scary. What if, like, you know, nothing good comes out of this? And I was doubting myself and my ability to make the right decision. But I'm like, if 1 year goes by and I don't make this decision or I don't do anything about it because of doubt, will I be okay with this decision? And the answer was no. Money can always be like reclaimed or made back up, or it'll force me in a position to like figure out how to make more money and to create more things or more opportunities. But I will not be okay if nothing changes and 1 year passes. And that's a great like way to think, especially when you're on a crossroad and you're pressured to make a decision for your future self, because every single day you're going to have two segments of yourself counting on you. One is going to be your future self, the one of what you're creating for you and your goals and your dreams and your aspirations in life. And the other is going to be the past version of yourself. Every single day you have to decide of which version you're going to be operating in. A lot of times people are still operating from past and they're not really operating from that future self. But when you have conscious awareness, you get to discern which segment you're moving in. So when you're not taking care of your body, you're dulling your mind, you begin to doubt yourself and your abilities to make the next right decision. We become careless. When we become careless, we become lazy, because why would you do something you don't care about? It makes no sense. Kind of like school. I don't know. That's how I went to school. Like, if I couldn't understand like why I was doing something, I'm like, then I don't see a point to this. I'm just going to get a C and just pass the class, like whatever. But that was not the right mindset. I've grown a lot since school. Discouragement. When we get lazy, we become discouraged. Discouragement is one of the lowest, most dangerous emotional states to be in, because when you're discouraged, your energy is going to be so low. You can only be low for so long because the body biologically is going to crave a high. This is where we get into things over here that are self-destructive things, because we crave stimulation. I was telling a few of my clients and people that graduate from my mastermind course there, I was like, I'm going to have like a yacht day and an event in June. So if you guys are interested, let me know, where we're going to attract entrepreneurs that want to take their business or lives to like the next level. But there's not going to be any drugs. There's not going to be any alcohol. And I'm going to teach you guys how you can have new avenues of healthy stimulation and have a great time and have conversations, actually remember and show up that next day, not feeling like hungover or feeling like poop or anything like that. Like, you're going to feel amazing. But I just don't believe going to all these events and conferences. A lot of times you guys aren't going to see me there after hours, because nothing good comes out of anybody after a certain hour. And everything creates more of the habits and the behaviors create more of a disconnect and a separation of where you become a liability. And when you show up for that next day, people are back over here. Boom, boom, boom. Dull, dumb, doubtful, careless, lazy, and then boom. And then the cycle repeats itself and repeats itself. And this literally is the cycle of self-sabotage. And this is what happens. And that's why we can prevent most of this. I'm not saying this is not going to happen, even if you are taking care of your body. But for the most part, if you're taking care of your body, you can have all these things under control. You're going to have greater sense of self-trust, self-worth. You're going to feel great. Your body's going to be able to keep up with your vision, your goals, your dreams, all the business meetings, the conversations. You're like, how are you always on? Like relax. And like, because there's certain things in place that keep us mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically sharp. And that's really what it's about. So what do you guys think about this? Because this was like the secret. I mean, we can go on a gazillion. I've already been on here for about like 46 minutes. And this is a really powerful segment. Like when I was speaking, I promised you that I would break this down a little bit further. And I went into a little bit more of an explanation, but what are you guys coming up with on your stuff in here? Hold on. Oh, the first slide was still showing. We say we can only see the first slide. Oh, Chris should have unmuted yourself. Oh no, hold on. Let me see. You guys can't see the attachment slide? And then that's that slide? Yeah?
Yeah.
So now can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
You hear me
So
okay?
what?
Oh, you hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. My computer wasn't working before.
Oh no. All right.
Right.
So then were you able to see all these slides or no?
No, we just saw the first slide until
Oh, you just saw my face?
the fit. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Okay, hold on. Let me, darn it. Yeah, when I'm talking, I'm like looking at my slides. I'm not looking at the chat. I get so present. Okay, so this was a toolbox slide. So just showing you like in order to operate at higher levels, you have to develop solid tools that will help you get you there. And then there's two reasons why people stay stuck AF. More of like the resistance is really not understanding why something should be a priority in our like overly full life box when, unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs are just focusing on 1 out of the 10 categories, which we have. If you're thinking about your life and this like life box, most people are only looking at money, but money is only 1/10 of the fulfillment of our entire life. And so if you think about it, you're like, and even career isn't even attached to money. So can you guys see my life wheel? Can you see me at least? Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is where just understanding why something needs to be a priority and kind of spending time with understanding resistance. And then over here was the equation. So this right here, if you write your formula and you write triggered emotions, and then in here you write behavior. So how do you respond to triggered emotions? Typically people, what I've realized is that most people, like if you have one triggered emotion, like you might be able to like get by and have like a strong willpower with like, not caving in. But when you have two triggered things on top of each other, I notice when there's like two triggered emotions like backed on top of each other is when many people will go into like the self-sabotage of like some form of behavior that's more self-destructive. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, why did I do that? So, and then you feel bad, you feel good for the moment, which goes back even to the other slide of this right here, just like F it. My day's been like shit and the client backed out. I've been hearing a lot of that, especially if you guys are in the real estate. I know Stephanie's in real estate. I don't know what industry you're in, Chris, and then iPhone 9.
Yeah, I'm in real estate too.
Yeah. So I'd be like, oh, they backed out last minute, like you're like, ah, and then you're just so frustrated because you put so much time and energy into like these things, and then they could just pull out like last minute, like how are you going to handle it? Because that's painful. That's painful, be counting on something. And it's just like, with everything up in the air, especially like what's going on in the economy right now, like you have to, not saying be blinded to it or like to take your foot off the gas, but you also need to have tools to help you operate a lot more solid, because these are things that a lot of people don't talk about. These are things that when you get this under control and you have the right tools, you're going to be able to really make some massive shifts in your life and everything like that. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. You're amazing too. Yeah, Stephanie's in here for her like she's gone through all this stuff, but people still want to come back and see and get refreshers and stuff like that. Cause this stuff's like really, really powerful when you spend time with it and put it into practice. So does this like slide make sense? So if you write under here, this one, you write triggered emotions under here, you're going to write behavior, and then this is what can shift. These don't shift. It's just having that self-awareness of like, let me be honest. These are my triggered emotions. A triggered emotion is an emotion that's going to probably lead you into a self-destructive behavior if you don't have the right tools in place. But everybody's different triggered emotions are not everybody has the same triggered emotions that are going to lead to something that could be possibly a liability. It's a little bit different for everybody, just being aware of what those things are going to be. Is it, discouragement is always, I can say that for sure, a big one. That's why I'm like, listen, let's like anticipate it. This is the 6 segments that happen. So just by you learning how to really take care of yourself and have these are not as non-negotiables, you're going to prevent yourself for the most part, at least have more self-mastery or self-control from even getting there. They say like anticipate suffering and don't go there. That has a lot to do with knowing yourself. When you know yourself, you can then master yourself with the right tools in place. So a lot of this, it's simple. It's not easy. There's a difference between simple and easy. And every time you practice, it's like, I tell you guys, like, you have your physical workouts, you have your mental workouts, you have your emotional workouts, and you have your like energetic or your spiritual workouts, like your meditations and stuff like that, that help you with clarity, that help you with trusting that higher version of yourself. Because there's some versions of ourselves that we don't want to trust or listen to. Like I said, it's like we've got our future and we've got our past. Like we don't always want to keep bringing our past into our present or our future reality. Like past needs to stay in the past. When I first opened up this webinar, I said, like I have multiple past life experiences in this lifeline, like in my current lifeline, but they're not my story anymore. That's why I don't even claim them as my story, because words also carry power. And if I'm keep saying like, this is my story, it's not my story. It's not who I am. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. So it's like most people, I explain it like this. It's like when you're in middle school, you're trying to like convince the 5th graders of who you were when you were in kindergarten. Why will we do that as adults? We're not the same person we were 5 years ago. So why do we have to keep like reminding ourselves of who we were 5 years ago? And same thing when who you are 5 years from today, or even 1 year from today, I pray for you. It's a new storyline, and you can create that. You can create whatever you want. There's many people that create new storylines for themselves every single day. Your past doesn't have to define where you're going in your life. You define that. So this is where the next one is. And then this is the 6 steps of the FIT mindset. And that's how that part works there. You can take a screenshot of it, super powerful. But I also wanted to bring awareness because we do do you guys have any questions on these so far? It's like 3 simple slides, but there's like a lot of concepts behind it. Yes, no, maybe so. You can unmute yourself too.
I'm good.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Do you want to share what you came up with?
I'm still working on that.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take a little bit of time, but sometimes people have it like right away. But I do want to give you guys, Stephanie just graduated from this course. She was in the last one, but we have the Mastermind Elite. It's a 90-day of coaching. It's coming up in November, like actually the beginning of December, but I want to let you guys know about it early. And we have the Ultimate Achiever Inner Circle. So if you do decide you want to do it, you guys are going to have access to the Inner Circle until we start the Mastermind Elite. It is 3 months of coaching, intensive coaching with me. We break this and so much more down. We've got 3 phases of just self-mastery, emotional intelligence, human performance, and how you're going to really step into like your most elite self. We've got 2 calls a week and it runs at 10,000. You're going to get team WhatsApp chat, and that's around 1,500. You're also going to have a one-time per year live event in Miami, which we're going to have, like I told you guys, in June. We're going to have like a yacht day of like healthy stimulation, and just really cool entrepreneurs that have really worked on themselves. You're also going to have 90 days of direct access to me. And so that's around $20,000. That's worth 20K. And also lifetime access to the recorded sessions. So you're going to also have like all your recordings forever, for lifetime, and the inner circle. You're going to have free access to the inner circle, which is a one time a week. So that's going to be like 3 coaching sessions a week. And you're going to have that up. We're doing it every Thursday right now, still going, but the mastermind is going to start in December. So like right after like that Black Friday area. But in the meantime, you guys would start in the inner circle with me like every Thursday. And that's at a value about $40,000. But for you guys being on here for this event, we're only going to do it at 10,000. So if you are interested, just let me know, TanyaCioliver.com/mastermind. And that's what we have going on. I just sent the QR code, but just here's some testimonials. Actually, Stephanie just finished the course. She was in the mastermind. Was it last one, Stephanie, or the one before? We're doing the mastermind 3.0 now. We've ran 2 so far. And here are some of the testimonials from them. We had Paulina before starting with the program. She's feeling overwhelmed, running a business, being a single mom. And she just felt like paralyzed. She wasn't feeling like she was growing. And now she just feels super organized. She executes on tasks. She's really expanded a lot. And she is literally become her vision board. So she's a boss. And as you can see, that we have like a productivity schedule we teach you. And she ended up like going crazy and expanding it up on her wall. I also have Gabrielle, and she actually was somebody who wasn't really able to afford the course, but she made it happen. And I've put myself in positions like that before as well. And within the first month, she hit her first time ever 5 figures just because of how she was operating and the things that she learned and how she put it into practice. So that's a really cool, different form of success story. And then I also have Caitlin. Caitlin worked in the course and she said it's one of the best decisions she ever made. And even in Stephanie, I said in here, it was like amazing. And she said, just getting unstuck, achieving most of my dreams on her vision board. She also was able to get out of some really toxic relationships. She finally was telling me about just building herself up and deciding that she was changing her inner circle and the people she was surrounded with and the relationship she was in. And now she's kind of building the new and starting all over, brand new and stronger than ever. And we got Chris, not Chris Mentley, but we got Chris Mungley. And he had a lot of distractions. He was constantly distracted and had one foot in, one foot out. Got super focused. We gave him a plan to execute on. And a lot of it is also like getting you guys focused and giving you a forward movement mindset. And now he's just, I think they hit their first 6-figure month, him and his business partner. They just hit their first 100K a few months after the course because they were so focused and put everything into practice. And I know Stephanie's actually crushing it too with her business. And even in times of discouragement and frustration, especially going on with people pulling out like last minute in the real estate industry, but she's been crushing it. And finally things are starting to pay off pretty soon, right, Steph? She might be with the kids, but anyway, yes, I'm sure she's
I'm here. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm like Do you want to share a little bit? Because I think your story is so powerful and like super real. Because sometimes a lot of this work, what you're it doesn't happen right away, but the perseverance and the strength that you've gained, I mean, you're just a whole different person from when you first started.
Most definitely. I think the biggest thing I did or I learned was self-acceptance, which, gave me a lot of confidence right after that. And so that was able to help me take my business to the next level. I have a real estate business. I do real estate wholesaling. So we've been able to, you know, maximize the deals that we get and we transition into the multifamily industry. And so we've been crushing it on that end.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I know like in the beginning too, because I also like to be real with people. Like I know like we've had a few like contacts even in between, and like you're like, yes, I'm expecting this, I'm expecting that. And then
Yeah.
it falls out. And most times people would get discouraged when we talk to the 6 steps of the F-It mindset and they quit on themselves.
Most definitely. So I had 125K in assignments fee fell out. And so that was very discouraging to the point where I was so close to just saying, F this,
Yeah.
I'll just go back to nursing and stuff. But I continued to be persistent and consistent more than anything. And so it started to pick up.
Yeah.
But you have to catch yourself, like you said, I caught myself. I was about to be like, okay, F this.
Yeah.
But, I remembered, okay, it's only temporary, stuff like this happens, but I gotta continue to push forward and
Yeah.
make it happen.
Thank you. No, I mean, when I spoke at Learn to Build, Michael was the one, he put the Learn to Build on complimentary for everybody. And he said it was like 4 years, 4 years. Sometimes they couldn't afford anything. Like they were so poor, and people just look at people like from the back end. But a lot of times, like it's the ones that keep going, but there are certain tools in place. And like when people come to me like, oh, well, you don't understand. I'm like, I've been doing this for 18 years, and it took about like 14 or 12 years before I even saw any level of what I would consider financial success, or, and you have to measure success in different ways, but it's the people that don't quit and that don't give up, and having the right tools in place and the right mindset is what eventually gets people up into that 1%.
Most definitely. And just getting yourself back up, it's a big win.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, your testimonial, and thank you guys so much for being on here. If you're interested, definitely for those of you watching the replay, make sure you message us. You can sign up. We have also payment programs as well if it's something you need to make payments on. Here's a QR code. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to achievers@tanyacoliver.com. I hope this webinar served you, and this secret isn't a secret anymore, but it's for your guys' success. And let me know what you end up coming up with on that equation, and have a healthy and safe weekend. Yeah, you're welcome. Any questions on this before we close out?
Nope, I'm good. I'll reach out if I think of anything else.
Amazing. All right, you guys, have an amazing day, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.